Hello everyone, Mobius1 here, bringing you wait a sec. It says this is supposed to be a SWGEmu update video. We still record those? We do? Oh. Okay. On October 25th, 2021, the SWGEmu project pushed its curiously named Publish 10.5 the Rise of Galaxies update onto the Basilisk server. Now, as I'm sure pretty much anyone who follows me knows, that I've been out of the SWGEmu scene for pretty close to 2 years now, for many reasons. Recently, I've been considering making a video explaining why I've stopped playing SWG and my opinion on the state of the project right now, but to be honest, I really haven't found the motivation to make such a video. Maybe I'll still do it, but at this point, I'm not really sure it's worth my time. We'll see. That being said, I know there are people out there that still rely on my YouTube channel to bring them news on SWGEmu, so I wanted to at least put together a video going over the patch notes of what was recently added or changed, and at least talking about the changes that I personally feel are either important or, like I said, noteworthy, and there are actually quite a few. I will not, however, be going over each note in this list because otherwise this video would be like an hour long. So, of course, I'll include a link to the original forum post in the video description below. So if you want to go ahead and fine-tooth comb your way through it, you'll be able to do that just by going down there and clicking that link. With that out of the way, let's see what we got. Before I get started, I do want to give a shout out to Fastburn from the QA team, who was very kind and helped answer questions I had, some clarifications about some posts or some points in the patch notes that were kind of vague, or just, you know, something I wanted more explanation or a deeper explanation for. He took the time to answer any of my questions, so a lot of these explanations were going to be information directly from him. So thank you, Fastburn. Starting off with one that's not all that exciting, but worth pointing out, I think, is fixed player disconnect message to be sent when a player goes LD instead of when unloaded from the game world. You guys may know that previously when somebody would log out of the game, maybe if you were having a conversation with someone that got disconnected or whatever, you wouldn't be able to send them a message and their character would be LD, but you wouldn't see the disconnect message until their character physically disappeared from the game. Now you're going to get it as soon as they go LD, so if somebody decides to ghost you mid-conversation, you'll know as soon as they log off, not when their character leaves the game. Added battlefield markers across various planets in the galaxy. Now, we did talk about this in my last Galaxies video I made, which I don't even remember when that was, when 10.5 was put on the TC Prime server. These battlefield markers are not functional. They don't do anything yet, but the fact that they've been added means that they could be used for something down the road. So still exciting, still worth mentioning, even though it doesn't actually affect anything yet. Added functionality to change appearance through screenplays. This is something that the event staff are very proud of. They were able to make it so that through dialogue options in-game, players can actually change their appearance. And this was tested most recently with the Halloween 2021 event that's going on currently. I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end of the video, but I did recently do a live stream where myself and Lazy went through the steps to finish the Halloween task, and it was rather interesting. I'll have a link to that live stream a little bit later. We'll talk about that. There's quite a few things here under combat. Many of these are actually quite interesting, but I'm only going to be talking about a couple of them because I can't go over every single one of them. Fixed issue allowing more than one attack to execute at the same time. Fixed knockdown, posture change, and dodge animations to fire appropriately and without delay. So, you know, especially in like PvP and stuff, you might see people get knocked down, but they're still running, and then the knockdown animation happens, but since the animation happens late, you see them sliding across the floor on their back. So hopefully a lot of that should be no longer the case. We'll see. I obviously haven't had the option or the opportunity to test any of this stuff yet. But if others know that it's working, and if they say it's working, then cool. There were quite a few changes to combat log stuff. So fixed combat log damage to not include food or Jedi armor mitigation. The food mitigation was greater than 100%. I think I saw something else in here somewhere about the combat log. But I'm not like a min-maxer in this game at all, but I know a lot of you PvPers and a lot of you hardcore endgame PvEers are really into combat log parsing and trying to see, you know, like min-maxing your stats and stuff. So hopefully, especially Jedi, it seems a lot of this stuff is Jedi related or food buff related. Hopefully this will help you guys out with your numbers more. Fix an issue that allowed player and non-player character attacks to sometimes penetrate buildings in certain situations. According to Fastburn, there was a bunch of issues where certain attacks, I don't know if they're AoE attacks or just certain attacks, could actually damage targets that were inside a structure, even though the attacker was outside, especially with NPCs. He said that could like run up to a building and maybe shoot you through the floor. So apparently he did a lot of testing, found the issue, and was able to fix it. So if that's happened to you in the past, it shouldn't happen anymore. This one's actually really awesome. Fixed NIMS theme park. Jenkins and Cole no longer require drag and drop of their quest items for quest completion. I have no idea how many people asked me before I did a NIMS theme park video guide. People thought that these quests were bugged because they're one of the few quests, if there are any others in the game, that don't handle completion through dialogue, where you actually did have to drag and drop the item out of your inventory onto the NPC. And there's nothing in the game, as far as I know, maybe it's buried deep in the holocron somewhere, that tells you that that's what you're supposed to do. But yeah, no longer need to do that. Thank you. There's some pretty interesting stuff with NPCs. So added townspeople, thug, quest, and commoner NPC ability to use a new dress group function. So obviously this doesn't affect us as players, but it now allows the NPCs when they spawn, I guess, to choose appearance options from a pool of different possible appearances that they can choose from. Also added missing NPCs to various planet locations, and fixed NPCs to converse and move around instead of staring into the distance. So now when you're out in town, you'll actually see NPCs walking around and doing, you know, conversation animations in front of each other, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it actually really adds a lot of the immersion back into the game. Sounds, especially like Theed and Mos Eisley, have more NPCs in them now, and they're walking around doing their thing. So it actually, as minor as that sounds, it's a pretty big deal, I think, to the overall feel of the game. A couple big updates for GCW, as we knew from the 10.5 test on Prime, added contraband scans to function in the wild. And is this listed here? I'm just skimming through these, so yeah, it doesn't say anything in here, but the faction NPCs can now do contraband scans on you in towns as you drive through them. Now, it hasn't happened to me yet. As far as I understand from Fastburn, he says, I think the cooldown is once every 6 hours you can get scanned. But yeah, this is, you know, if you've ever wondered why it said on sliced goods or spice that some people may consider this item illegal or something like that, that's what this is. So I'll probably do a video in the future going into detail about like what counts, what the punishments are, and all that stuff. But for now, just know that it can happen both in cities and in the wild with probots that spawn in out of space, which is really frightening when it happens. Yeah, it can happen. Added banners to signal which faction controls an NPC city, so now right outside the Mos Eisley Cantina will be either a Rebel or Imperial banner letting you know which faction is in control of the city. And even added a chance for Princess Leia and Darth Vader to visit faction-controlled NPC towns to rally troops. Again, nothing game-changing, but at the same time adds to the immersion and is something that a lot of us from Live remember, so it's a very nostalgic thing to have back, and I'm looking forward to seeing it for the first time. Again. Corellia Stronghold, Rory Imperial Encampment, and Rory Rebel Military Base POIs can be faction flippable, so again, depending on how many GCW bases are on the planet, these POIs can now actually flip faction. Added functionality so that players who have been banned from the game will now lose their force ranking system rank at the next daily rank maintenance window. I imagine that's pretty important. Repair tools now have 5 uses. That's a pretty significant change. Items with customized appearances inherit the base item as a variation of, rather than the custom appearance selection. Now, Fastburn provided me this picture of ranged weapons with modifications. This is again something that I'm not super familiar with how it works, so I will probably ask some questions and end up making my own video on this system again in the future. But it's cool now. You're going to see a couple variations of weapons instead of the same thing over and over again. So again, I think there's like an extra crafting step now when crafting weapons. I don't know if you get to choose it from a list or if it depends on what kind of optional subcomponents you use or something like that. But you'll see different weapons with slightly different variations going forward. So pretty cool. Fixed an issue that allowed Aurelian plants cure updates when in storage or on vendors. I haven't done a video on the Aurelian plant yet, but it's actually something that you need to take care of in order to maintain. And apparently there was a bug where if it was in your inventory or something, it would still receive updates as if it was supposed to be placed in your house. And I guess the plant could die in your inventory even though it's not supposed to. So again, something I'm not 100% familiar with, but it should be working correctly now. And something that I found interesting that I didn't even know existed until I saw this: added ingredient hopper to crafting stations, both old and new. So apparently crafting stations had an ingredient hopper that you could put crafting resources into. And then if you were crafting something near the crafting station, as you know, you would normally have to just to unlock the higher level recipes, if that recipe requires ingredients that are in the crafting station's ingredient hopper, you don't need to have them on you in order to use them in the crafting process. I had no idea that was a thing. That's amazing. I can't wait to check it out. But as amazing as that is, we do have to put F's in chat for the Ewoks no longer dropping Ewok crossbows. I'm sorry. The devs finally acknowledged the Ewok crossbows' level of ridiculously overpoweredness and obliterated them from the loot tables. So, RIP Ewok crossbow, you will be missed. Just, I guess, as a little clarification for those who are unaware, apparently the Ewok crossbows were removed from live SWG at 14.1, which is what the project is emulating. So for the sake of authenticity, they were removed from the project, even though I'm 99.999% sure that once 1.0 is out and we get the new server and everything, we're going to see Ewok crossbows return. But for now, if you happen to be sitting on an Ewok crossbow, hold on to that thing because they're not lootable anymore. So that's going to be a relic worth quite a bit. Getting down into the professions, we now have merchant tents can be crafted into 2 additional colors. For combat medic, fixed damage done by poisons being applied to equipped weapon experience erroneously. So now any damage done by a poison that you throw as a combat medic is not going to give you like rifle XP. Couple major changes to entertainer. Refactor the entertainer and band functions for entertainer, dancer, and musician. Now, I still, after Fastburn's explanation, don't entirely know what was changed. Most of this stuff is going to be like behind the scenes stuff, but apparently because of this refactored function issue, some entertainer macros, I think, might not function properly. So if you do run an entertainer and you run macros with your dance routines, you may want to test them, make sure they're working as intended, and they may require some tweaking. So just be aware of that. In addition to that, and this is another F's in chat, or RIP for dancer, fixed dancer giving too much XP compared to musician. Turns out dancers were making XP 100% faster than intended. That's right, twice as fast, and you are now making what you were supposed to be making this whole time, which is half of what you've been making. So unless you've already mastered dancer, your dancer grind just doubled. Oof. That being said, there were a lot of other animation fixes, certain effects not triggering that will now trigger an outro whenever you stop music. Some other animation stuff that was fixed. So, I mean, aside from the 50% cut in XP, dancing and being an entertainer overall seems like it should be a lot better. For Jedi, saber block, or fixed saber block, so that when it blocks an attack that had a state associated with it, the state is also blocked. Startle shot and suppression fire both function. And some cool changes to squad leader. Now that squad leader XP will scale based on how many members are in the group, as well as the squad leader can gain XP even if the group members are XP capped. So while entertainers kind of got a little bit of a nerf, squad leaders got a decent buff. And here we go back to the weaponsmith. Fixed appearance selection to allow variation when crafting ranged weapon components. So yes, very cool. So that's really it for this video. Just like I said, going over the 10.5 patch notes. I show you here as an example of the rebel flag outside the cantina. If I turn over this way, we should see... Where'd you go? Oh, here we go. Our little R5 droid. This is our R4 droid doing his patrol of the city. Like I said, there's going to be NPCs with some patrol routes walking around. Like I said earlier in the video, haven't been playing this game for so long, but we did jump in last night and do a live stream of the Halloween event, which was kind of fun and frustrating at the same time, but in a good way. And there's supposed to be more events coming down the road this year before the holidays. So we're very lucky to have an event staff that is dedicated to having seasonal events. So I'll do my best to make sure there's video coverage of those events as they come up. But yeah, I've just been out of Galaxies for so long. We're slowly getting back into it despite the fact that I'm still playing other games and dealing with some IRL stuff still. But yeah, I'm just going to keep this one kind of short and sweet as best as I can. Hope this guide helped you if you guys didn't already know about the update. And stay tuned for more. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. If you're still playing Galaxies, if you've moved on to other games, what other games are you guys playing? And yeah, if maybe you stopped playing and you're looking forward to coming back, I'd like to hear about it. So, thank you guys for watching. Mobius1 here. I'll see you soon.